Welcome to Energy Stew. This is Peter Roth, your host. And I'd like to ask you, have the angels been talking to you lately? I hope so. I hope they talk to all of us. And for this show, we're going to have someone who they speak to and through a lot. And it's a show that many of you were repeating, having this special guest on again, because you've all enjoyed the shows with her so much. And she speaks with the angels Raphael and Ariel, and some people like to call them archangels, and yet they themselves say, well, it's really not a hierarchy out here, so we're comfortable with just being called angels. And it's humans who need that more. So it's nice to know that they are humble and normal beings who appreciate just understanding and conveying truth. And so to help us talk with them is someone who I'm so happy that she's back with us again, Adria Estribou. Adria, welcome back to Energy Stew.
Thank you so much. It's such a delight. Yeah.
It's always wonderful to talk with you because there's so much that you, not only is it what the angels say through you that you hear and speak, but it's your experience with them that has given you so much of your own knowledge and wisdom that you can bring as well.
Oh yeah, I feel like I'm in angel instruction. I feel like they give me assignments, or I really feel like I need to live all of it, the trauma, the pain of it, and then I'll hear them speak about something and say, oh, that's what I'm going through. And then it's okay, well, I really need to walk the talk, or this is the advice they're giving people. Am I brave enough to keep taking that advice? So yeah, I'm really living a life with angels these days.
It's wonderful. I'm intuitive and spirit speaks through me. I don't necessarily identify who it is. And yet I know that when they do, I hear and speak, words come to me through them that I wouldn't have thought of, and phrases and ideas that I'm listening as much as the person I'm speaking with is listening.
Yes, it's quite a privilege to be able to hear so much. I learned so much that way because the angelic perspective is so different than what I would have thought of in so many instances.
Right. You
One of the things I love the most is just the whole, 360 or 12-degree turn plus up a few hundred degrees.
Yeah. You think you know something, and then all of a sudden they start speaking and they change the whole understanding that you have.
Yeah.
And without you thinking about it, they're just speaking through you with this new understanding that you didn't personally have.
Yes, it's quite mind-blowing.
Yeah, I love
Often.
it. And you're so terrific at it. So, and what I also enjoy is that you hold it so naturally, even though you're in wonder about it as I am. It's you trust, you live in trust of it, and that's wonderful.
Thank you.
So I wanted to ask them to help clarify the struggles that our world is in right now in major ways that none of us expected it to be so bad. We got this virus and we were hoping to be done with it by the summer, and it's fall, and it looks like, it almost feels like we'll never be done with it. And we don't know how to manage it. The way that we've been managing it has been extremely destructive to society. And we don't know that there could be another way that might be better than locking everything down and creating mass and social distancing in ways that are really distorting our minds and our psyches. And and I think will scar us in really bad ways. And also will create new opportunities to rediscover ourselves and things that we wouldn't have had otherwise. So I do think there's a silver lining in many ways, but the destruction to society is so great, economically and health-wise, that I don't know how to understand that. So I'd like to speak with the angels to help us understand a deeper knowing about this. And maybe you have some good questions, that the way that you could phrase it, or help us.
Yeah, let's just see what comes through. I feel there's at least one perspective answer that's ready already. So we'll
Oh,
start
good.
there. This is Ariel, Angel Ariel. So the first question here is, what is truth? So much discernment is needed here. And we understand that many of you at least have the belief about yourselves that you don't have sensory inputs other than the five that you're taught in school, right? So if you don't have this ability to see in some other sense what is truth, how do you discern? Is what I'm being told on the television, is what I'm being reading in the newspaper, is what my friend says, or someone I don't know on Facebook says, how do I know when it's true? So for that, so setting aside extrasensory abilities for this moment, for this discussion, how do I know what's true? Bring yourself very close, we would suggest, in these months and these days, coming into winter here. Bring yourself very close to your own experience. So, in other words, if you were to read or see on television, well, the zombies are coming for you. Okay, well, that sounds a little, already the mind's like, okay, maybe, but that sounds a little far-fetched. So, well, use your five senses, look out your window. Are they coming?
Although this virus isn't something you can see or know, and they say it's in the air, and we should, be afraid of breathing.
Yes, but that's where you get to still look. This is Ariel. In my own body, is there illness? In my body right now, is there illness? And if you want to go a little wider, in my family, is anyone sick right now? Or on my block, the people that I interact with, if I'm interacting at all in the world, virtually or otherwise, are they ill? You might be surprised when you take a little catalog of the people you know or are in contact with. Are they actually ill? So when you are discerning is something true, we're asking you in a very practical sense to look at your world, your experience. Is this true for me right now?
But then,
Not might it happen 5 years from now or 5 days from now,
right.
but in other words, there is quite a lot of untruth out there in the public sphere, intentionally misinforming you about some things.
Or
So
putting out the question that, yeah, you might feel good, but guess what? You're carrying a virus you don't even know that you're carrying, and you're killing people. And then what?
yes. So much fear and so much misinformation. So how can you discern if you don't have other ways? If you're not speaking with an angel right now, or if you don't have truth seer abilities, how do you know? And we ask you, just be very practical. Am I well right now? Well, I interacted with my family this week. Did they get sick from me? Be very practical. Um, so especially when it comes to things around fear, and when the only information source you have is television or newspaper, that's telling you that there's something to be afraid of, really come into discernment about that. Well, is there any evidence in my own life to support that being true? And we understand you don't want to believe in America right now that this could be something true, that you might be intentionally being told lies about some very important details of your life like this. You're used to seeing that in movies about other countries or dictatorships or something, but there is a reason to mistrust right now quite widely. So we do ask you to come into discernment by being very, very practical. Is this happening for me right now? And this is a good tool in any time, once we're out of, and yes, there will be an out of this time when there's not so much uncertainty and fear. It's a beautiful tool to carry with you anyway. You don't need to wonder or worry what might happen 5 days from now. Now, might the stock market crash? Might everyone on the planet die? Might I die in an airplane or a bus? Or, there's always the what might happen fear. It feels a lot more present to many right now for good reason, because you're being sold fear, basically. You're literally paying money to hear about things you should be afraid of. So, but it's a nice tool anyway, in the times that aren't so extreme, to come back to right now. Right now, am I sick? Right now, do I have money for food? Right now, has the stock market crashed? So whether it's a global thing you're worried about or in your own health, come to this moment, because that is what is true for you. It's not, no one can lie to you about that. They can, but you're not going to, if they're telling you about your body and your experience right now in life, it's much, much harder to deceive you. You might be hypnotized or something, there are ways, but let's say it's much, much harder to deceive you about what is my experience right in this moment. If you're feeling happy and someone tells you, "Oh no, actually you're very grumpy right now," wait a minute. No, I'm happy. I know this about myself. So, in playful and practical levels, but also when it comes to these very, very deep fears that are very, very well orchestrated. We're not saying that you are foolish to fall into these fear wells, let's call them for a moment. They're very, very well orchestrated right now. There's a reason why there's so much fear around. So, the best antidote we could say for you right now is, what is my experience right now? And any moment, any possibility of joy that you can find, whether it's the sunshine outside, the book you're reading, in other words, something totally different than the thing you're afraid about. Bring your focus there. So this isn't about la 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 la, nothing's happening, right? It's not about ignoring the world, but it is about discernment. Not everything you're being told is true. So meanwhile, how do you tell what's true? Why don't you start with yourself, your experience in this day? And why don't you magnify that, make it bigger in your world than what someone you've never met is telling you on Facebook?
Yeah, I go outside to the park in the neighborhood, which is often quite crowded. And then there are people who are really heavily masked in all kinds of protection, and then a lot of people who aren't masked at all. And there are both people looking both ways. The people with masks are saying, "You could be killing me right now."
Yes.
And they look at you like you're a monster if you don't have your mask on. And those without masks, and I'm usually one of them in the park because I don't believe that outdoors and not being that close to people, I'm not worried. And and I look at them and I go, you really are living in such great fear, and you've probably been this way for months. And tell me, what's happened around you? Has anybody in this whole neighborhood been sick in the last couple of months? Likely not. And so why are they afraid of me or anyone else without a mask if there's no virus around here? And right now in New York, the virus is active in some of the Orthodox Jewish communities where they've flaunted their social interactions. But even then, we're being misled about how dangerous it is for the general public to be sickened versus people who are vulnerable to be sickened. And what you were saying, I think, is important, is that look at yourself and get the lay of the land. Are you somebody who's really needed to protect yourself because of your health in general? Are you somebody who is vulnerable? Or are you basically healthy? And are you doing good things for your health? Are you taking, vitamins and eating healthy and getting sleep and drinking enough water? All those things that if you're conscientious, if you're so afraid and you have to wear this mask so importantly, what else are you doing that makes sense for your health? Are you, maybe the best mask is just to have the healthiest body.
I love that. This is Ariel, Angel Ariel. Yeah, so we'd like to go into a subtle layer of this, and it will make some people angry, undeniably here, but still we would like to speak this. We speak so often about wishing for what you want, and it's our more modern language for prayer, if you like, but it doesn't have a religious association, right? So when you want something, and it could be ice cream or it could be world peace, it doesn't matter. As long as it's not intended to harm someone else from angelic perspective, all wishes are good. So because they're exercising your free will here. So you can wish for small things or things in your own personal life. You can also wish very, very globally. And your wishes do create your world. So if you don't want to be in the throes of a world full of virus, for example, then we ask you to wish for coming out of that. And this time you can see from your experience in the park, Peter, people are creating their own world, and some people are creating unnecessary structures of fear in their daily environment. So, in other words, recreating, regenerating. So it's a sustainable fear loop. Um, and that's their choice. So this is the part where people will get mad and turn off the interview, perhaps, but it's all right. But we do want to speak truth to this, that you are creating your own world. And it's not just these small wishes about ice cream or a certain amount of money in the bank. You can wish, do I even want to be in an experience where the world is in pandemic right now? And so come out of it. If you wish to come out of it, come out of it. And wish that bravely, that broadly. This really is a beautiful time, speaking on a spiritual level here, for growth, to have a demonstration, a very visceral, practical demonstration for yourself that you do create your own world. So if you do not want to be ill, if you do not want to be in an environment, a masked environment of fear, wish to come out of that. And then you'll be shown ways to do this and how you really can create your own experience. So in other words, a very, very practical, normal human response to what's going on right now, again, with the environment of what you're being told is true, is to be afraid of being sick or being afraid of a lot of people suffering over being sick. Well, stop for a moment and say, okay, well, that may or may not be true. What do I want? What do I want? So bring your focus. In other words, you are the creator here of your world. Bring your focus towards healing. Bring your focus towards wellness. So even if you, at this moment, can only believe that the media would only tell you truth, every representative there on camera would only tell you truth. Okay, well, still, if that were all true, what do you want? Where do you want to go from here? In this moment, again, the tool of this moment, in this moment, where do you want to go from here? And don't wait for someone on the television to tell you what's going to happen in 3 months, or don't wait for 3 months to come. You, right now, you create it. You create it.
And I think that's important for our health in general, is to hold the sense of self-empowerment, because then we can walk forward believing that we're taking care of ourselves, that we are, whatever truth comes up, it's from let's say, positive thinking. Think of what we want. We want a safe world. We want a healthy world. And we want to be healthy in it. And all of a sudden, we have this sense that we can be, each individually can be healthy in it and not be so afraid.
Yes, this is Ariel, Angel Ariel. You know, it is a very, very difficult time for many, for most on this planet, not for all, certainly. Uh, and you've known, you know, in your own teachings and books and ways of being in the world that the more poignant, difficult times are often the times of the most growth. So, spiritually speaking, here, this is a resplendent time. Humanity, and we speak collectively here, how much you are growing in this time is tremendous, is tremendous. So, the angelic perspective on this time, although we see the pain, we see the suffering, we're not blind to that. We also see perhaps what not everyone else sees here, which is the tremendous growth and the falling away of the structures of fear, because even those who maybe didn't gravitate before to a spiritual path of some kind, after so many days, so many months of fear, there is a point where the being, the soul says, no, I give up on that. I can't have that anymore. It's too unsustainable to live in solid fear. So then the soul looks for something else, some other way out of that worldview, of that way of living. Where if it was just a little fear every once in a while, like a Halloween movie or something, well, that's okay. It's a little exciting, right? But the being comes to a point where I can't tolerate this anymore. It's just too much, you know, to live in that much fight or flight, to live in that much fear. And that's where the soul has a chance to grow tremendously, tremendously. And never again will that soul feel trapped in fear like this, even if the circumstances around are chaotic and uncertain. You know, life is chaotic and uncertain. That's the nature of it. More so, yes, we do acknowledge more so in this time, and yet it's a tremendous time for growth. So in yourself, if you're feeling doubt, if you're listening this and to this now and feeling doubt about your resilience to withstand, you know, how many more months, how many more days of this, whatever it is for you, being shut inside, or the fear that you will be ill, look inside yourself at the strength of you, because it's there and it's ready to burst out. It's its moment. It's like this is the perfect condition of water and sunlight for that seed to grow. Your strength, your resilience. This is its time. This is not the time when you know, it finally became too much and you got crushed. We don't see that. We don't see that in humanity. We see the seeds of resilience and strength and a kind of a steel against fear that you will not be subject, collectively speaking, here to this kind of fear ever again, because you have risen up in yourself to say, I can no longer tolerate this. So it had to, in a sense, in this pathway, this life pathway, get to such a crescendo, such a volume that you couldn't tolerate it anymore in order to really give up on fear itself.
And then the idea will be to start rebuilding from what we've lost in new and different ways, and come together and recreate our future, or recreate our society, and for a future that is more productive, with each attempt now that we're going to make to come back from this place.
This is Raphael, Angel Raphael. Yes, and to live without fear. So that's one of the components we would add. You're seeing right now, which is just as practical as true. There's physical and societal rebuilding that needs to happen, and things around health and other kinds of structures. And what would it be like to rebuild a life, or just start an organic life that wasn't built around responding to fear or trying to avoid fearful circumstance?
Right.
In other words, life without fear is quite a glorious thing. And we wish that for humanity. And we see it flowering. We see it opening in humanity, where We're just not willing to tolerate that anymore.
Really to think of productivity, to feel progressive, that we're making progress in our lives in whatever new and positive ways we can. So great. So we're getting near the end of the show, and it's always wonderful to speak with the angels and understand this deep need for us to come back to our own wholeness and work from that. And it's a different sense of beingness, I think, that they're talking about. That is wonderful. And so how can people find you, catch up with you?
Yeah, this is Adria. My website is wingsound.com, wingsound.com. And that's probably the best way to see all the blogs and the latest angel messages and different offerings there.
That's wonderful. Adria, it's really so helpful to speak with you, and not only do I like hearing from the angels, but I like hearing from you too.
Thank you. Well, it's a delight for me as well. Thank you.
Good, thank you. And this is Peter Roth, your host at Energy Stew. I can be reached at peter@heartriver, HEART river.org. I'd love to hear from you, and thanks so much for listening.